be, so get ready.
All right.
We are live. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you coming in and joining us on this Tuesday on the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. You can already see my brother up on the screen because today is answering your question day. So we had a presentation for those who do not know for Saviours Day, the Nation of Islam Saviours Day, which was the weekend of 26th, 27th, and 28th. We had quite a few questions and we were not able to get to them all. And so we promised that we would come and do a program or two, whatever it took, in order to answer your questions. And so that's what today is. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to get right into it. So let's start appropriately and then get to the questions. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I further bear witness that God that we believe, that God who we know is the true and living God, came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, July 4th, 1930. And for those who may be hearing this for the first time, that is what we are celebrating when we say in the Nation of Islam that we're celebrating Saviours Day. We're celebrating that man who came to save us. And he did what? He raised one from among us who wrote that wonderful book behind me that is the foundation of this show, How to Eat to Live. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is who I'm talking about. He was taught by a man for 3 years and 4 months and is still to date confounding those who are studying his information. And neither one of them left us alone. They left us with a guide, a teacher, a friend in this time. I'm speaking of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and their names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam, sir.
Thank you, sir. So just to explain to those who may not have heard that before, we say that because we're asking for a higher power that gave us the knowledge that we have, number one, to guide us. And we're also asking for our ego, our arrogance to be removed so we can be a clean vessel and inshallah, meaning God willing, an appropriate vessel for you to come learn, get some news that you can use, and then leave this programming better from the knowledge perspective and having the ability to apply so that you can become better than when you came to the show. And so that's why I open up that way. And so without anything further, we're going to get directly into the show. To Brother Tariq, is there anything you'd like to do to greet our brothers and sisters that are listening to us tonight to begin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, just like my big brother, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah who came in the person of Master Father Muhammad, to whom all praises are due. And I further bear witness that he raised two men in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and the honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is in their holy and righteous names that I like to greet the audience of the Ultimate Wellness Group with the words of peace and paradise, as we say in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, sir.
So I look forward to getting into the conversation. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, sir.
And you know, Doc, I'm always happy to join you and do whatever with my brother. So let's get to it.
Come on now, let's make it happen. Let's give a couple shout outs. We're gonna get right into the first question. Robin Muhammad, Lynn Ali, Daisy Muhammad, Robin Muhammad. I said you already, I'm sorry. 8 Electronics, Faith XMGT, Kiara Muhammad. You know we can have any show.
Let's go. Let's go.
Brenda Muhammad. That's right. Jabril, my brother.
Let's go. Big bro.
Yeah. Old original man scientific in the house.
That's right.
Yeah, so wa alaikum salam to all of you, and thank you for coming in, joining the show, and thank you for your continued wonderful support. So let's get straight into it, brothers and sisters. We want to get to the questions so that we can appropriately spend our time. Man, got to make that screen bigger. Let me see.
Yes, sir, because I'm on my phone. I can't see nothing.
Yeah, for real. What question are we on? We should be on 28. So let me go read it. It says, would that be the same for people with gout or other inflammatory diseases? A lot of research says that people with gout should steer clear of beans. So I'm going to go ahead and let the scientific expert on the bean talk first, and I'll come in afterwards. Can
That's
the bean,
yes, sir.
can the bean be a cause of gout?
Yes, sir. So it's most certainly not the navy bean.
Right.
What we have to understand, all beans are not created equal. Uh,
Don't sleep on
they're
that
not
navy bean.
right. You know, not only just from the fact that it's from, you know, God in person, we also have to understand that the navy bean is literally the most simplest bean of all of its family members. It's more simple than the black bean, the kidney bean, and it's smaller than the rest of them. You know, so when you look at the kidney bean and the black bean and those other things, you know, those other types of beans, those beans have other phytochemicals in them, in their seed coat, in the pulse, that the part that you actually eat.
Yes.
And one of those chemicals off the top is tannins. You know, tannins are used for various things, and one of the things that they function as are toxins. You know, for insects and different things
Right.
of that nature. So when we're eating kidney beans and we're boiling kidney beans or we're boiling black beans, you know, we're not just boiling the bean; we're also boiling the different toxins and uh, chemical destroyers, in a sense, that come with those beans.
Right.
So when we're consuming them, we're also taking in the residue from these dangerous toxins, and then we're consuming them ourselves. So this may lead to those different types of inflammatory issues like gout, you know, different other types of rheumatic conditions, other types of arthritis. So be very careful of, you can't just eat any old beans. You know, no bean did he describe or give to us other than the navy bean. It's simple. Right. And it's void of the extra chemical toxins that the other beans possess. You know, it has its own toxins to protect itself as a plant from insects.
That's right.
But when it's being cooked down for human consumption, it's best for us. So it's not the navy bean. So if that is something that was told to you or something that you looked up, it is a strong possibility that the gout or any other inflammatory issues coming about from the other types of chemicals that may be found in those other beans and not in the navy bean.
And the only thing that I would add is that my experience tells me that that is true, because I have not had any patient over the years with gout that followed my instructions to get off of meat and go to the navy bean that continued to suffer with gout. It solved itself in a pretty quick manner.
Right.
So, you know, I don't need to add any more. You already covered that well, my brother. Rather than bring up those little words, bro, I'm just going to look at the questions and just go from there, okay? Because we have,
that's better.
Brother says we have certain ones that we're going to cover. Some of them will be combined because some of the questions were, of course, very similar. And then some were a little too scientific. So we'll have to cover those at other times. But we're going to be on here for an hour and a half, cover as much as we can. And next week, we'll be back to finish the rest of the questions. And we pray that Dr. Mariam will be with us next week. Okay, so the next question was, I struggle with eating my bean soup the way I cook it. I find myself not sticking to eating the navy bean on a regular basis. Is there a cookbook or a source of different ways we can prepare navy beans, or do I just need to become a better cook? I think that would be something that I'm sure some of the sisters that are on here can answer better as far as cookbooks, because there are quite a few out there. And I don't think all of them are, should I say, adequate, right? Because as Brother Tariq just finished covering, this is a very special bean. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us in How to Eat to Live that you can mess it up. So we want to make sure that we're soaking them. We want to make sure that we prepare them correctly, make sure we don't put too much stuff in them that could pull away from the benefit that they give to us. And so I pray that there's somebody in the comments that will mention where a good source, and I'm talking about maybe potentially one of the MGT, because that's who is taught how to prepare it in the best manner for us to
That's
receive
right.
the best nutrition. So, one of you wonderful MGT, please put a comment in there, if you will, and let us know what maybe is a good um, recipe, or if you have one and you want them to reach out to you, please let us know. As I always say, I rely on my beautiful wife to cook my navy beans, so I couldn't tell you, other than the fact that when I eat her bean soup, I'm in love with it. Anything you
Same
want
here,
to add, my
beloved.
brother? You know,
I'm just gonna say same here. I'm not gonna let you show me up. So same here. My
Sister
wife does the
Kiera
mean
is
bean
watching.
soup. Praise be
Okay,
to
well, let's
Allah.
get to the next one then. Next question is 32. It is said that magnesium, calcium, and potassium all help to regulate blood pressure. They all can be found in the navy bean. Is there a special practice you all recommend in lowering blood pressure for someone on a plant based diet who occasionally takes blood pressure medication? That was from our wonderful brother, Chef Brandon Muhammad. I thought that was a good question. Go
Yes,
ahead,
sir.
Navy
That's a
Bean
great.
expert.
Absolutely. So he's absolutely right. All the navy bean contains all of those very critical minerals and contains a lot of the critical vitamins as well. Now, in terms of um, the navy bean, in terms of that lowering blood pressure, the best recommendation is what was taught to us in How to Eat to Live: one meal a day or one meal every other day. And the navy bean soup, whole milk and whole wheat toast knocks that high blood pressure right out. Now, I had a family member um, that dealt with high blood pressure. And one of the things I always like to talk about is phytochemicals. So, phytochemicals are chemicals that are naturally found in food and plants. So, one of these phytochemicals is something called boron.
Mhm.
Boron is a known is a known chemical that's used to make nutraceuticals, is used to make pharmaceuticals. But in its natural state, its best state is used to lower blood pressure. One of the most abundant sources of boron is from apples. You know, we also sleep on dietary fiber. Apples contain dietary fiber and the boron needed to lower blood pressure. And I put this family member on that apple regimen. I would say I was having this person eat maybe 3 or 4 apples a week
Mm.
in addition to How to Eat to Live, and his blood pressure was able to go down. And he also did it while he wasn't on How to Eat to Live, like he should have been.
Right.
You know, so I put him on that apple regimen, and within 2 weeks' time, his blood pressure was in normal ranges. So there's a variety of things in How to Eat to Live that we are permitted to eat in How to Eat to Live that can lower blood pressure. You know.
Yes, and remember, brothers and sisters, I'm not quoting the book directly today for time's sake of trying to get to as many questions as we can. But paraphrasing, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that chronic diseases can go away in a matter of months or
Right.
years. And so, when we talk about these very specific things, like Chef Brandon asked about the magnesium and the calcium and the other micronutrients that come from food, you don't necessarily have to understand those things in that particular manner like we do. But it is important for you to understand that we're having this conversation not for you to, and not for us to look smarter, not for you to have to go and dig into the science, but for you to have the confidence that, okay, when I eat this navy bean, I have to stay on this regimen and be consistent, and I will start to see my blood pressure come down. I will start to see these medical problems start to subside. And so I think that's the point that I just wanted to add. Beautiful answer, my brother.
You as well, beloved.
Praise be to Allah. Okay, next is 34. Our enemy tampers with the natural process of agriculture. Would it matter whether the navy bean is organic or not?
Yes. First and foremost, I just want to say that our enemy has yet been able to produce a genetically modified version of the navy bean. I'm gonna tell you why. In How to Eat to Live, it states that the devil will make us 7 times more of a devil than himself.
Mhm.
And in the table talks, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad states that the navy bean was blessed 7 times.
That's right.
So we have 7 to 7. You know, so he created that being because he knew that the amount of damage that was going to be put on the black man and woman. So he needed something to correct those damages, So, and I'm gonna tell you a little story. When I was at Virginia State University, my freshman year, I was doing biotechnology research on a Navy bean. And my advisor, and I tell the story a lot, my advisor wanted me to stop worrying about, stop worrying about about how to live and not so much proving the messenger right, but backing him up. Don't worry about that. Worry about creating a GMO version of the bean because GMO research is heavily funded.
Right.
So if I was to focus on something with GMOs, the university would get more money. I would get more money. He would get more money. It's a whole game to it.
Right.
So I told him, look, I'm not interested in doing a GMO version of the Navy bean. I'm not even going to try because I've been taught that the Navy bean cannot become a GMO purely because of what I stated, in How to Live and its sole purpose, So I would just say that, and I hope and pray this answers the question. And can you say the last part of the question again so I can make sure I'm actually answering it with this point?
Yes. The question was, let me go up. Our enemy tampers with the natural process of agriculture. Would it matter whether the Navy bean is organic or not?
Yes, it would definitely matter. So to my point, if it was GMO, you wouldn't necessarily be dealing with a Navy bean anymore. Same thing would for any other fruits and vegetables. But because the Navy bean is so divinely protected, we don't have to worry about it being a GMO. The one thing we do have to worry about is how it's processed in their factories. Right. That can become a problem. So factories like Goya, where their factories are notoriously filthy, or we have the Muhammad's Farms, where we can get our Navy beans from there. So with the Navy bean, it's all about where you're getting it from. Not so don't worry about the biochemical composition of the Navy bean. Worry about the source and how it's processed.
Well, how would you answer the person that would ask if there are pesticides, herbicides, and chemical fertilizers used to grow the Navy bean? Would that alter the benefit that would have on our bodies?
I would say no, because once again, no, sir. I would say that again because it's divinely protected. So I believe that the Navy bean is built or designed in such a way where no matter what is to come upon it, or no matter how it's being raised, that it will be of some benefit to human life. But to avoid those things, it'll be best to find organic and safe sources that produce this Navy bean.
Yes. And so again, brothers and sisters, we know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioned on multiple times in both books that we should eat the best of foods, right? And, as we have had many conversations about how to eat to live, we have to prioritize that. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about people and their cars and their jewelry and their homes and their clothes and their front yards. They take a lot of time to make sure all of those things are wonderful, and then go inside and eat some ramen noodles, or go inside and eat Popeye's chicken sandwich, or whatever the case may be. We have to prioritize eating quality food if we don't want to have problems in the future. So definitely something for us to consider. Let's do a couple of shout outs, bro. We're going to get right back to it. Got Michael J. Muhammad. Oh my goodness, I done messed up and passed all them comments. By the way, I want you brothers and sisters to know that today we won't be answering any new questions. So if you ask a question and it's not directly tied to the question we are dealing with, we will write it down and cover it at another time. But today we wanted to cover the questions that the people were asking for Saviours Day. So I just wanted to let you all know that, just in case there's anybody asking questions. Michael J.H. Muhammad, T. Farrow, John Calvin Bettison, Stoll Rue Toussaint Fulton, Eunice Johnson. Jabril's giving us some backing on here, bro. Tracy Owens.
Yes.
Walaikum salam to you all. Charles X. Moy, Laroya Muhammad, Brother Charles, Catherine Muhammad, Cynthia M., E.P. Hope, D.A. Gordon. Walaikum salam to all of you. Gregory Brundage said, in How to Eat to Live, whole milk is mentioned to be good for us. I've heard so many negative responses when it comes to milk. Can you go into why it is good for us? Such a beautiful question, right on time.
Yes.
That's the next question that we got. So let me finish these shout outs and then we'll get right to it. Robin Muhammad says, go on the FB page, Cooking with the MGT. So if anybody has a question about how to prepare their bean soup in the best way, right? Because if we listen to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say that we have to pick the best of foods, what we don't want to do is, like he said in the book, do certain things to ruin that best of foods. Like when he talks about vegetables, cooking them too much. He talks about bread, eating fresh made bread. These are things that allow us not to get the best out of the food. So thank you, Sister Robin. Anybody looking for recipes or how to prepare them correctly, the FB page, Cooking with the MGT. What were you going to say, bro?
No, I'm saying don't be putting no turkey legs and rice in the navy bean soup and trying to make it gumbo. That's not bean soup.
Bean soup gumbo, huh?
I've seen some exotic stuff, man. It's crazy. We deviate so much on that.
Man. Roderick Barnes, what's happening? My brother, Kiara Muhammad, that preparation is very important. My recipe was given to me by my mom, another MGT. There you go.
That's right.
Some special things that those MGT learn in that class. Can't sleep on that. And Priscilla B. Timmons, special lady. Jabril says, look into apples for boron. That's right. Stowell Root Toussaint Fulton said, peace, Tariq.
Peace.
He asked, did you have your cousin eat the apples directly after his dinner to complete the 1 meal a day? Or what time of day did he eat the apples? Also, did he eat the skin of the apples?
I'm mad he said my cousin. I never even said that. Oh, that's hilarious. So I basically so it was pretty much 4 or 5 times a week. So he ate an apple with every meal. So with every meal he ate during the prescribed time from 4 to 6 p.m. And that was when he ate the apples. And yes, he ate every part of the apple. Every part of the apple is good for human consumption. So don't jip yourself by taking off the skin. That skin is definitely some necessary, much needed fiber.
Yeah, and let me just say this. I want to add that it's probably not a good idea to eat fruit after navy beans or other meals that take longer to digest. Right. And so my suggestion in that would be that when you go to an apple for the benefits that it will give you, make sure you eat that an hour and a half before you eat the rest of your meal. Very easily digested, breaks down pretty quick. And in my studies, the skin of an apple have extremely high amounts of phytonutrients. That's the things that we get from the colors of fruits and vegetables that come in the body and do wonderful things. So again, just great information. Sister Catherine Muhammad, anybody that's looking for recipes, please look at hers. My friend Roderick is saying some things about where he gets his navy beans. I think that's good. Yeah, you are good, my brother. William Muhammad, thank you for coming in, brother. And we got you coming on the testimony soon.
That's right.
Yeah, Robin Muhammad says the navy bean can be bought from the NOI stable goods. Yes, those of you who are interested in getting the navy bean from the Nation of Islam, go to NOI. Dang, I knew it would come like that.
NOIMOA.org.
NOIMOA.org, which you can get into the stable good program and get the navy beans and other good things. And we don't allow people to do things to our food that is negative. We keep it in very protected environments to make sure that when you get it, you're getting quality. Okay.
That's right.
Jerome in the house, Constance, James LaSure. Thank you all for coming in. Brother Jabril is just giving some shout outs. Appreciate you, brother. Jerome in the house says, is garlic good to eat when it begins to sprout the green stem after a while? Okay, we're going to get to that because garlic is coming up a little later on in the show in one of the questions by Brother Jerome. So please stay with us, please. Let's get to the next question. It is about that milk. A person asked, I thought milk is very bad for you. So that was their question. So I guess I'll go ahead and start off on this milk. The first thing that I would like to say about the milk is that if you consider yourself a spiritual person and you read any spiritual book, and I'm referring to, of course, the Torah of the Bible, the Bible in general, and if you read the Quran, all three of those books mention milk and mention the people of God drinking the milk. And so anytime we're trying to figure out and decipher information that we're getting from the public, the first thing that we should do is evaluate it based on the scriptures that we believe. Now, if you don't believe that any of those scriptures are meaningful and they don't represent anything positive in you, that's a total different reality. I'm speaking from the perspective that I believe the scriptures, and I am taught to study the scriptures to evaluate what it is that I'm doing today. And so the Quran calls milk agreeable to the drinker. And in the Bible, milk is described in ways that people are eating it and drinking it. When I say eating it, I'm talking about cheese and yogurt and things of that nature. And it was a beneficial thing for people that were taking good care of themselves. When you study the milk in particular, there's so many wonderful things that we get from it. Glutathione being one. A lot of amino acids that do wonderful things in the body. The amino acids that it takes to build glutathione in the body. The type of substances that help us make melatonin and rest well. So there's so many things. I don't want to go really deep, but the milk is a very easily processed food. We don't need to do a lot of digestion. There may be a little digestion with some of the fat, but in general, milk is already broken down into the type of things that we can get from it very easily and very easily put into the body so that it can be used pretty quickly. Very positive for the brain, very positive with a lot of things that can help the body heal without a lot of digestion. That's when you know you're getting a lot of good nutrients, when you don't have to do a lot of digestion, but you get a lot from that food. And so that is just a short answer on why milk is good. You want to add anything, my brother?
Yes, sir. Well, just like I stated with the Navy being, when it comes to food, when they say, you're lactose intolerant, or you can't consume milk, or whatever the reason may be, it's not that you can't consume milk. You can't consume how they processed it. When you're dealing with pasteurization, you're removing a lot of the beneficial chemicals or a lot of beneficial substances that are in that milk. So you're not dealing. The milk is not the problem. The problem is the way they produce the milk, the way they package the milk, and the way they sell you the milk. Lactose is nothing but a simple sugar found in dairy products. Why would a simple sugar be? Why would a simple sugar be of a negative impact on you, unless it was processed in a certain way where it's no longer a simple sugar? It's now a complex, artificially produced sugar that is done from the pasteurization process. Yes. So you're no longer dealing with the milk that came out the cow. Now you're dealing with something that came out of the factories, out of their labs, out of all of their processing plants. That's what you're dealing with.
And the reality, right? And just to add to that, when you go and you do research and you hear medical studies and this researcher and that researcher talking about milk being bad and milk causing cancer, milk being part of autoimmune disorders, we're not talking about milk that comes straight from a cow. We're talking about the milk that Brother Tariq just mentioned. And so you all have to be able to understand that when you go into general medical information, there is no study that I know of, and I've been researching for years, where they study milk that has not been homogenized or pasteurized or minimally pasteurized and not homogenized. And they did studies to come to conclusions with that type of milk. That's different than what you're finding in a grocery store. And that's what we're describing. So that has to be delineated. You have to know the difference. And typically when you hear medical practitioners or so-called people that are health gurus talk negatively about milk, it's because they're talking about the milk that you get in the grocery stores that is really poison. So that was an excellent question, I thought, and I pray that we answered the question that somebody asked tonight about the milk, because milk is definitely in the dietary lifestyle of a guy.
That's right.
With a little
That's
G.
Right there.
Yeah. I thought this was a good question. Someone asked, I have been struggling with drinking soda, but more specifically Coca-Cola? Can you speak to the dangers of soda on the body?
Mm. Go ahead, Doc.
Well, let me say two things. You know, when I hear people say things like the dark soda is worse for the body, I don't necessarily know if that is true. I don't know whether it is or isn't true. But what I will say that soda is bad for sometimes reasons that people don't really know. So the first thing is that you hear a lot of people say, I drink soda to make my kidneys hurt. That is not accurate. Okay, that's typically not how soda affects us through the kidneys. Why? Because you're drinking soda, it's going into the stomach. And the things that it does are usually associated with what happens in the stomach. So you have a
Sure.
lot of carbonic acid in soda. And it does what when it goes into the body? It draws calcium because it changes the very intricate systems of the body and how we maintain our pH balance as well as our nutrient levels in the body. And so, because the carbonic acid that comes in has to be balanced with some of the more neutral, not neutral, the basic things that we have in the body, we're pulling things out of the body. And so, people that drink a lot of soda are pulling a lot of calcium out of their tissues to give
Right.
that balance. And so that's why a lot of times you will hear people say that people drink a lot of soda typically lose their teeth and have to get dentures later on in life. There are a lot of studies that are making that correlation. Nothing has proved it because it's so hard to prove. Second thing is that if you're drinking sodas with caffeine, that adds to that effect of draining a lot of fluid out of the body. The caffeine effect on the kidneys causes us to lose nutrients. And so when we lose nutrients, one of those nutrients is calcium along with other things, and we typically don't replace it correctly. And so drinking soda is very difficult on our calcium system in our bodies. And so that those would be the main reasons why I say that drinking soda is not good. Now, if you are the type of person that needs caffeine or likes caffeine, using coffee and the coffee bean is much better for the body, even when the caffeine is in it, than drinking soda for the reasons I just mentioned. And in addition, we will add that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about drinking coffee. It is good for us, but he never suggested that we overdo it. I think some people that drink coffee all day, some people that drink these big old mugs of coffee and cup after cup after cup, you are damaging your body. But if you're the type of person that likes a cup of coffee in the morning and you drink it with a little sugar, cream, honey, whatever you put in it, that's not bad for you. It's okay to have a cup of coffee as long as we don't overdo it. Because, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in How to Eat to Live, book one and book two, that we can do too much of a good thing. And so we have to make sure that we're being balanced and doing things in moderation. Anything to add, my brother?
I just want to say I don't know what people see in coffee. I don't care if it's the Messenger's coffee, or coffee from the gas station or
Yeah.
Starbucks or wherever you're getting it from. I'm just not a coffee drinker. And I joke with Jabril about this all the time. Like, coffee is just like I just don't get it. Y'all hype that up too much, So, but just to add on to um what you were saying about the different things that it can do to the body. You know, if you think about, I want to paint a picture for you. Think about the stomach as acid city, right? The stomach has its own hydrochloric acid. This is like the primary acid that sits in the stomach to burn away all that food so they can move on to the small intestine and then eventually the large intestine and get out the body, right? So what you're dealing with now, when you put soda, it's like having an active volcano, and then you pour another volcano on top of that one, and then it explodes even more. So now you create a whole belly full of acid that your body is just not built to maintain. The acid in your stomach is meant for simple, natural foods. If you're putting more artificial acids, more artificial chemicals into that mixture or that environment of acid, it's just going to become a very explosive environment in your stomach, and it'll create ulcers. It'll tear away at the lining of your stomach. It'll cause you to have a lot of digestive issues like constipation and just a whole myriad of stuff, So I stopped. I'm not gonna lie to you. I used to drink soda. I stopped drinking soda like a few years ago. Maybe I want to say maybe 7, 8 years ago. I got tired of it. Like I got tired of the feeling. I got tired of dealing with what I was dealing with. Even the clear soda, like the Sprite and all the other stuff. Stay away from all that. If you want that fizzy, right. If you want that fizzy or that carbon like feeling, go get yourself some seltzer water and put some fruit in it, and you're good.
And that speaks to what you're talking about is, I mean, that's the other thing that people can use as a gauge that it isn't good for you. Something that you put in your mouth that burns like that does when it goes down that's the body telling you that there's a problem with it. The way that it causes you to burp and all that gas, those are things that aren't beneficial for the body. And so those are the signs that soda's not good. So I pray we answered your question. Whoever answered that question, we're not really getting into the names. So what we got next, number 39. Can you talk about meat, nutrition side effects, please? I thought that was a good question. You want to take that first, bro?
Yes, sir. In order Elijah Muhammad teaches us that if we can stay away from meat, stay away from meat, stay away from it. I'm paraphrasing. If you can stay away from meat, stay away from it. It's not something that you need to survive. It has no nutritional, there's nothing nothing a body that makes you need or requires you to have meat. It's not oh, if you don't have meat, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. Right. You can get all your protein, all your carbohydrates, all your nutrients from the navy bean soup. You can get that all from anything that's talked about in How to Eat to Live. You don't need meat. If you're going to eat meat, eat the best of meats, the lamb, you help me out with this, bro. It's definitely not beef. Stay away from the beef. Stay away from all the heavy meats. Go to the light meats. Go to the lighter the meat, the better.
Right.
Just in terms of where it comes from as well.
Right. Putting everything in context of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He said that we should be vegetarians.
Right.
That is the best for us, right? And he said, if you're a meat eater, then start working yourself off of meat gradually. And so anybody that is a meat eater, you don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to think negatively of yourself. We live in a meat eating society that promotes meat eating on a regular basis, right? And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said the best meat for us is fish. And if we feed fish, there are certain types of fish, which, go to the book and find out the specific ones he's talking about. But they should be within 1 to 10 pounds. We should really not eat fish bigger than 10 pounds. But he said that it is against life to eat them greater than 50 pounds. So that's the tuna and the shark eaters and those type of things, swordfish, people that are eating those are way too big. And what happens as a fish gets bigger is like any other animal. As they get bigger and older, they get more tough. And that's why he suggested 1 to 10 pounds, because those are usually your very easy to digest fish. Now, the thing that we have to understand, at any time you're eating meat, you're eating the muscle of an animal. So think about that. The part of the body that is probably toughest is the bone, next is the muscle. And so if you're eating a tough part of the body, it's tough to digest. It's tough on the system because it takes so long to digest, right? And so when it comes to the type of meats to eat, he said that beef was too coarse and takes too long to digest. He said lamb is tough to digest as well. But because lamb is a cleaner eater, that we should choose that if we're going to eat what they consider red meat. He said that we are chicken and turkey eaters, or specifically chicken, but we really shouldn't eat that because those are very nasty animals. They peck dead stuff to eat. Other animals' feces, they eat bugs and all that kind of stuff. And if you believe in the moniker that you are what you eat, then you wouldn't get on your hands and knees and peck and eat what a chicken would eat. So why eat the chicken? Now, that's not a knock on anybody that's eating chicken. That just means that when you are still eating meat, you should be going to places to get the best of chicken, not chicken that is raised in a place where the animals aren't allowed to free range and eat how they normally do. You shouldn't be eating chicken that's on steroids and antibiotics and the beaks are cut and animal cruelty because the animal has certain hormones. You should try to stay away from those type of things. And then the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us a specific way, which is in How to Eat to Live, on how to raise chickens and what to feed them if we were going to eat them. And so again, we should start raising our own food and we should start raising our own animals if we're going to eat animals. But we should have a desire and we should have a goal and a journey to becoming a vegetarian because that's the best for you and that's what's going to give you the best health and that's what's going to give you the best longevity. How's that, brother? Did we answer the question, you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Praise God. Okay, what we got next? Number 40. That's going to have to be answered another time. I don't know why I put that on here. Let's go to 42. This is going to be a 3-part thing. So I'm going to read all the questions and we'll just answer them together. Okay, my brother?
Yes, sir.
Because I think they were all pretty much aiming to the same reality. So this is explain the connection between eating to live and healing mental distress and the anxiety of daily American life, being homebound, etc. Also, can you discuss all the awful medications being prescribed for treating mental illness? Thought that was an excellent question. So we're going to add 2 more to that because I think they all are similar. The next question was, what about the effects of the navy bean on the neurological system? Do you get more benefit regarding how it is prepared, plain versus with all the vegetables included? Another good question. And then the last one was, can you explain how the navy bean helps to improve or reverse dementia and what causes this? Those are some great questions. So go ahead, bro.
Yes.
Take that
Beautiful question.
Run with it.
All right, let's break down the first question. So I wasn't writing down as you were saying this. So can you go to the first part of that question real quick?
Yeah. She talked about the connection between eating to live and healing mental distress and the anxiety of daily American life. And she added being homebound. Can you discuss all the awful medications being prescribed for treating mental illness? So I think in general, navy bean, how to eat to live, and how that relates to mental health and specifically, depression, maybe schizophrenia, other things of that nature, and how our experiences maybe have dealt with those realities.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to say, first and foremost that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in How to Eat to Live that fasting and the dietary laws that he prescribed in this book are the cure for all our ills. He didn't say a cure for our medical ills, our mental ills, our spiritual ills, financial ills. He said a cure for all of our ills. Imagine if everybody on the planet was on How to Eat to Live. Just picture that. There'd be no car accidents. There'd be no domestic violence. There'd be no work environments that stress you out because everybody is following the laws of How to Eat to Live. The way he put How to Eat to Live together is literally meant to relieve us from the different stresses in our lives. It's not going to prevent the stresses. It's going to relieve us from the stress. How else would he be able to show you the power of How to Eat to Live if you're not under stress?
Right.
How else would he be able to show you that you can get rid of certain diseases with fasting if you never had the disease or if you never had anything to fight off? So there has to be stress there. It's not going to prevent it. It's going to help us fight them. So a good percentage of our mental illnesses, of our mental health, is due to our diets, the way we eat. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that someone who's been on How to Eat to Live for 40 years to the T ends up with Alzheimer's. I'm not going to tell you that because I'm not going to be able to prove that to you. You know, Alzheimer's, when you think about the disease process of Alzheimer's, and I deal with this disease a lot. I work in these types of environments. If you look at the disease process of Alzheimer's, it's literally a deterioration of the brain.
Yes.
How would the brain be able to be deteriorated if there wasn't problems in with the way they were eating, and if there wasn't problems in the way they were thinking? The way you think is because of how you eat.
That's right.
Is directly related to that. If I'm on How to Eat to Live, or if I'm creating the environment for myself to be on How to Eat to Live, it's going to be very hard for the devil to persist in that environment. He's going to have to go, you know. So when you look at the Navy being, I talked about the non-essential amino acids. All of the essential amino acids literally create the chemical environment for your body to sustain itself, so that there will be no Alzheimer's, there'll be no heart disease, there'll be no diabetes, no cancer, because the navy bean soup and your adherence to this overcame every other thing that you ever dealt with. You know, but I'm not going to go deep into the science of the amino acids and how they function when it comes to these mental illnesses because of the time, but we could definitely touch on that in another episode.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful point you make, my brother, because there's more and more research that's coming out that is bearing witness that when a person has, and we're talking about severe mental, like so-called people losing their mind and winding up in these facilities, that there is always some major nutrient that this person is majorly malnutritious in.
That's right.
The research is on and on and on. So most of us can probably relate to this, in that if you know a person with depression, anxiety, or a person with schizophrenia or bipolar, or any of these things, name me somebody that you know of that was given a pill for that problem and wind up solving the problem. No, they take the pill forever and still suffer with the problem.
They get worse.
We did not address what caused that deterioration in the mental faculties. And in 2000, I think it was either 18 or 19, maybe a little earlier than that, they started causing dementia, because dementia is the word that means loss of memory. There are different times, Alzheimer's being the most popular. But when we're talking about that type of a problem, they started calling it diabetes of the brain, meaning what? There were some metabolic issues that were happening in the brain, where the brain was deteriorating because of loss of nutrients, loss of being able to repair itself, loss of what we call neuroplasticity, which is what we do every day. Just like if you live in an old house, sometimes you just got to walk around the house. You look inside the house. Is any water leaking? Is this door hinge doing all right? This house is 80 years old, so I got to check and make sure no water is leaking through the window when it rains. That's the same thing the body does. And in the brain, that's called neuroplasticity. Happens mostly in the morning time. And so when the brain is looking for something to fix, how can it fix it if we don't give it the right food? I'm talking about the body, the right food, so that we can break it down and absorb it, so the right things are going to be put in the brain for it to solve itself. And so I would agree that if a person is practicing how to eat to live, striving to practice it, having dementia in your future is almost impossible. Why? Because fasting is the solution that everybody is finding for Alzheimer's, dementia, any type of dementia, Parkinson's dementia. When people start losing their memory, fasting is what either stops it and keeps it where it is, or reverses it if they do enough fasting. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us the ability to not have disease, but also reverse disease if we get it. That's a wonderful teacher when you have somebody like that. And so I think across the board, when we're dealing with anything that is wrong with the brain, when we're dealing with mental illnesses, the first thing that we should do is, and I'm not here to knock anybody that is taking a medication for depression or anxiety, or for even other so-called mental illnesses, right? You don't have to beat up yourself. You don't have to knock yourself if you are in that category, but just understand that you have to address it in some other ways. you can't address it just with that pill. You have to now start looking into what do you do on a regular basis, and does that give you the nutrition that you need for your brain? And if it's not, then you have to start getting the type of information to get you the right type of food to nourish the brain correctly. And then you have to start working on spreading out the times in between your meals, which will allow your body to start working on fixing some of the things in your brain. So I pray that we answered that question, because I thought that was, all three of them were excellent questions. Let me say this on a couple of the comments. There are a couple of comments on where to buy your milk. Please go to raw-milk-facts.com. That website has a link on it where you can find milk in your area. And then you still have to do your research. And if you need to know that, go back and check out. I've done 2 programs and talked specifically about the questions you should ask when you go to a farm. One is the optimal vegetarianism without supplementation, and the other one was the response or the milk debate. So check out those. But raw-milk-facts.com is a website that you can learn a lot about milk, but also they have 2 links. One, you can put your zip code in like 30 miles, 50 miles from the radius of where you live, and you can find the farms that are in your area that are selling whole milk. Or you can look on a list that they have of different states and what may be in your vicinity. So that's where you can find milk. Brother Jabril made a wonderful comment that I forgot to mention, and that is that the squab or the baby pigeon is another food that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said was excellent for us to eat. But you have to make sure you get them before they start flying. Once they fly and leave the nest, he said you should not eat them anymore. Yeah. Thank you, Brother Jabril, for that wonderful, the Jabriliant engineer.
Yes, Jabriliant engineer. Let's go.
Over here showing he got some how to eat to live love too, huh?
That's right.
Thank you, Sister Leah, for putting that up. I sure appreciate it. Special lady said, repeat it, please. Please let me know what you mean. Edward Steve, how does the bean soup help with immune suppressant medications? That's an excellent question. How does the navy bean soup help with immune suppressant medications? Well,
go ahead.
Go ahead, bro. You take it first.
Well, I just want to say, the whole point of an immunosuppressant medication is to it weakens the overall immune system. So if you're on immunosuppressant medication, you're more susceptible to contract different types of viral infections, or you're more likely to catch the common cold or what have you. So if you have a family member that's on immunosuppressants and someone's sick in the house, it's best to keep that person away from them. And that's just giving you a definition of what they do. Now, in terms of the immune system and the navy bean, I'm gonna come at it from the essential amino acid side. And the reason I talk about these so much is because they're essential. These are the acids that is needed. They serve as precursors or prerequisite to the other chemicals being formed in the body. So when you look at the human cells, especially the white blood cells, and I'm going to paint you a picture. The amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, right? Proteins help the cells, the white blood cells, red blood cells, any cell in our body, they help them do their job. So without the proteins, the cells can't do their job. So when you have the amino acids, the essential amino acids, and they're working with the blood cells, now they're able to produce the proteins needed to attack viruses. I'm gonna say that again. When the human body has the essential amino acids that it needs to produce these proteins, to produce these other chemicals in the body, the cells now have what they need to fight off viruses. So if you are suffering with poor nutrition and you're not getting these essential amino acids, what do you think is going on? Your cells are losing their function, and you start being more susceptible to contract viral infections or anything that it directly attacks the immune system. And like I was saying before, this is just painting you a scientific picture of why these things are important. And and once you have the different things you need to fight off these viruses, immunosuppressive medication, that's typically for people who just had a transplant or just had a major surgical operation where they need their immune system to be a certain way. It's to me, it's a lot of unnecessary stuff, but it's done for reasons that just many reasons it's done for. I'm not going to get into all that, but if you have these essential amino acids and you have the diet that you need to get all 9, then you wouldn't need any of the immuno drugs or any of the immunotherapies described or offered to you, that's made by open enemy. And I hope that shed some light on that.
Yes, it did. And I want to approach your question, Edward Steve, first from a spiritual perspective and then from my medical experience perspective. And so I will say this. Using a house analogy again, all of us have seen a house being built. And if you drive by when they're first putting up the 2x4s and the beams and things of that nature, you look at that and you say, man, that's the structure. That is the foundation of the house. So the amino acids that Brother Tariq just finished talking about is the foundation of the body. In every aspect of the body, proteins are extremely, and maybe we could say are the most important aspects of the body, and it's continuing to function correctly. Blood, tissues, all of that. Protein's so important. So when we think about the fact that God gave us an immune system, why would God give us an immune system? Well, we talked about that, right? In the first show, just briefly, we talked about the fact that the immune system is not just for repair, but it also is for the regeneration. We can regenerate these bodies. The way that your cells, the way that your organs, and the way that your tissues maintain themselves every day is a process of the immune system. So here it is that God presented us with this beautiful immune system that starts working from the day that you are born and is optimal when you are breastfed. But then by the time you are 6 months, you start producing your own ability to fight anything that could cause you harm in this environment called the world that we live in. Beautiful thing that God gave us, right?
Right.
And now you go, somebody tells you have cancer, they give you medications that cause you to be what? Immunocompromised. You go and you have an autoimmune disorder and they give you medications, steroids and other things that do what? Cause you to be immunocompromised. And so I'm talking about this from a spiritual perspective first, because we have to always maintain, how did God make these bodies? Why did God make my immune system competent to keep me relevant, to keep my cells relevant, and to keep my body continuing to be relevant so that I can exist in this world in a very healthy manner, right? And so when we look at why is it that when we go to these doctors and they're treating us for these problems that we developed, we become immunocompromised? Listen to the commercials on television. At the end, if you have traveled anywhere, you have tuberculosis, or you have been treated for any type of infection, be careful because this medication could, and then they go on 1,000 miles an hour, all the things that could potentially happen bad to you. Every medication that I hear on television these days, you can hear by the language that medication is affecting your immune system. And so to specifically ask your question, how does the bean soup help with the immune suppressive medications? It's very difficult to say, because steroids, for instance, that are put on most people with most medical problems, they pretty much shut down the immune system. The immune system can't even work. It's almost like a man or a woman being handcuffed and shackled, feet and legs. You can't do much when you're taking steroids. And so the bean soup, you're eating it, it's trying to boost the immune system, but the medications are shutting it down. And so the possibility is that the bean soup may not help you at all. Now, if you are taking a few medications and you're trying to go in the right direction and do some things different, that is a good question, because you should eat the navy bean to help you start going in the right direction. And as you make progress, God say the same, you can start pulling off of those medications, and that the fact that you have the good nutrients from the navy bean in your system could help you overcome things faster. But specifically to answer your question, if a person has had, let's say, an organ transplant, the best thing to do is eat the best of foods. But a person that has had an organ transplant would attack that organ unless they were on those immune suppressant medications. And so even if you ate navy beans and you had an organ transplant and you were taking those medications, the navy bean is going to do the best it can, but it's be very hard to overcome and outdo what those medications are doing. So I pray we answered your question, Mr. Steve. That was a wonderful question. Yes, sir.
Can I add something there real quick?
Yes.
I just want to say this. Your doctors can ignore improvement. If you are on a medication and you find yourself being able to not need the medication as much as you thought, as much as you did before because of your diet on how to eat to live, they have no choice but to cooperate with what's working. I'm going to say that again. Doctors cannot ignore improvement, because if they ignore improvement, they're literally a willing participant, and some of them are a willing participant in your death. You know, so I would say that the navy beans, and I'm not contradicting my brother in any kind of way. The navy bean soup, you know, and I said this at Saviours Day, we sleep on that navy bean so hard. I'm telling you, hard. To the point where we just think, oh, it's just some bean that Donna Elijah Muhammad told us to eat. It's not that big of a deal. Yes, the hell it is. Excuse me for my language. Yes, it is.
Yes,
you have no idea. I've seen this being worked in tremendous ways with my own personal family members, that if they didn't put themselves on this navy bean soup, they'd have a whole nother type of reality. You know, so in agreement with my brother, not against my brother.
Yeah.
The navy bean soup. Right. I got to say this because I don't want nobody to get nothing misconstrued.
Right. The
navy bean soup is the answer. How to eat to live, the collection of things to do that is described in this book, is the answer. Yes. Don't take any of this lightly. Don't take any of it lightly.
And I think you make a good point, because we don't want anybody to think that there's any there's no contradiction with what he just said. The navy bean is the best. I've said it before. It's the best thing that we can put in our mouths on a regular basis. You know, if you're eating every day, it's the best thing to put in your mouth every day. If you're eating one meal every other day, it's the best thing to put in your mouth every other day. If you're eating one meal every 3 days, it's the best thing to put in your mouth every 3 days. Right. But what we are dealing with is an enemy of life when we're talking about some of these medications. So there's no contradiction in what we are saying in symbiosis is what we're saying together.
Yes, sir. Take your time with it.
Yeah, I had to think about that for a minute, brother. I want to say the wrong word. Chanel Anderson says, does navy bean or fasting help with MS? If you get a chance, please, my sister, go to either my YouTube or my Facebook channel and listen to the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Testimonial Tuesday. It was about a year ago, and there were many people that came on and talked about their journey in overcoming medical problems. One of the people on the show, when I met them, they had MS. They were pretty much confined to their home, could barely walk, pains, taking the medications, didn't feel good with the medication, didn't feel good without the medication. And to date, no medication, feeling wonderful, back to jogging, doing all kind of wonderful things with his family that for many, many years he was not able to. So please check that out, because the answer to your question is absolutely. And I'm looking for many, many more people to help me show the world that how to eat to live is the best healthy lifestyle that you could ever even consider. All of
Yes, sir.
these other ones out here will fail you eventually. And this one, I haven't known anybody to dedicate themselves to it that has failed. And so thank you for the wonderful question.
Yes, sir.
Mark Anderson Muhammad says, is the pH, what did you say? Is pH 7.5 or higher water good for the body? I've heard mixed comments. Brother, I think we do have some comments, some questions on water. So please continue today. I'm not sure if we'll get to them today and definitely next Tuesday, but we definitely will deal with your water question. But I want to deal with everything in context of the questions that we're asking. So I pray that I'm not offending you by saying that, but please stay tuned because we are going to get into water. Okay. Edward Stevens, it's for MS. Okay, so that must have been the MS questions.
And you, if can I add something to the MS question real quick?
Absolutely.
So just to kind of paint a picture of what MS is. So MS, multiple sclerosis, is a disease that affects the myelin sheath, and that myelin sheath is pretty much a layer that helps to protect the muscle fibers in our body. So with multiple sclerosis, you're pretty much dealing with sclerotic environment, which is the hardening or stiffening of those myelin sheaths. So, and that goes all the way back to the amino acids. I love the amino acids. Is one of the things I did a lot of research in the laboratory on.
Yeah, we can tell you love that amino acid.
Yeah. So the navy bean, I'm telling you, matter of fact, most of the ingredients in the navy bean soup, the carrots, the celery, the tomato paste, most of these things have most of those amino acids. So you're not just dealing with amino acids from the navy bean, you're dealing with amino acids from everything in those ingredients. So I would definitely say that the amino acids, there are certain amino acids that help improve muscle function and nerve function. So when you're on How to Eat to Live and you find yourself, being disciplined enough to notice changes in how your body reacts as a result of multiple sclerosis, you found yourself a good tool to fight that condition.
Yeah. So somebody asked a question today that I think is excellent because it's similar to a question that somebody asked the day that we had the program as well. Is it possible to eat too much bean soup? And another person asked, is it possible to eat too much navy beans? Like if you have a navy bean smoothie and then you eat navy bean soup and you have a navy bean burger and you have some navy bean ice cream, can we eat too much?
Well, you can eat too much of anything.
Yes.
There's always a too much of anything. But when we look at How to Eat to Live and we talk about between the hours of 4 and 6 to eat the navy bean soup with the whole wheat toast and the whole milk, that's not saying that you can't eat those other navy bean products. But it depends. I've had navy bean protein shakes, and I've had a navy bean pie and a bean soup in the same day before. The only thing I could report from it was that it was a lot of gas. I'm just being flat out with it. It was a lot of gas. It was a lot of energy,
Yes.
So I wouldn't say that it'll do any harm to you, but it's best to just eat the navy bean soup. If you want to eat dessert, do the navy bean pie, but try not to overindulge in anything in one day. If you're going to do these things, spread them out throughout the week. But for between 4 to 6 navy bean soup, that's the best way.
Yeah, and so I think the word that you use that I think I would include in my answer would be overindulge.
That's right.
There are so many positive, wonderful things about the navy bean. I don't think a person that would do a smoothie and have navy beans in that and then eat navy bean soup and then have a navy bean burger and then have navy bean ice cream. You can't overdo it if you're eating in the manner that you should. Like we said earlier, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said you can overdo a good thing. Mm-hmm. But if your meal is within what you typically do and what is in congruence with your lifestyle, I don't see how having navy beans at all those different types of ways to produce it would cause you harm. And
right.
I have to bear witness, like Brother Tariq, in that when I started working on how to eat to live and started coming off of meat and going more to navy bean, my energy level went through the roof. And
Yes, sir.
I am
Lots of
sure,
them.
because I have experimented with myself, that nothing gives me more energy than the navy bean. And so I think it's an excellent food. And again, I think the word overindulgence, which is an American thing, right?
Yes.
Think about what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us. He said 1 meal a day, and then 1 meal every other day, 1 meal every 3 days. And if you eat twice a week, you live to 1,000 years. So, as he says in book 2, the less you eat, the longer you live. So don't get caught up in all this foolishness out here of eating so much of any particular type of food or eating so much of anything. Eat in the way that makes sense to your lifestyle. How do you do that? Experimentation.
That's right.
Because if you're eating a certain amount of food every day and your belly is continuing to grow, you obviously are eating too much. If you're eating a certain amount of food and you're continuing to lose weight and that's not what you want, then obviously you're not eating enough. And so find that balance that gives you the energy, that gives you the mental alertness, which are your signs that you are eating the right type of food and eating enough. And so I thought those were some very good questions about the navy bean, because when we talk about how wonderful it is, I'm sure that some people wonder how much they should eat.
Yeah.
Good question. Here's another one here, bro. I think this is very good. Um, is anyone currently eating 1 meal every other day? And if so, can you share some of your tips on how to successfully manage through the cleansing purification days? Any advice would be helpful. Are you
Hmm.
doing 1 meal every other day, bro?
Yes, sir. Well, hold up, wait.
I didn't
I'm
mean to put you
doing
on the
one.
spot. I was just
No,
asking.
no, you're good. No,
Yes, sir.
hey, that's what the question is, right?
Yes,
So,
sir.
I'm eating 1 meal every day, every 1 meal a day, not every other day. I will be doing every other day, starting next week. Actually,
Praise
I
him,
was
sir.
just talking to my wife about this, and one of the things I've seen, and I've eaten 1 meal every other day in the past. It's not new to me. But one of the things I can say is that if you want to be successful in that, stay busy. Because the idle mind is what produces is what is contrary to the idle stomach. I'm gonna say that again. The idle mind is contrary to the idle stomach. So
That's a
I'll make that
powerful statement.
into a t-shirt too as
Come on
well.
now. Yeah, that's right. I'll buy one.
But yeah, right. And it's your productivity, it gives birth to a lot of things. When you're sitting around and you have a lot of downtime and free time, you start thinking about things that are contrary to how you need to live. You start wanting to eat more. You start wanting to do things that are contrary to how we're supposed to be functioning as human beings. We want to go to sleep all the time, different things of that nature. So stay productive. Productivity will help you manage how much food you eat. Once again, the idle mind is contrary to the idle stomach. If you want uh, maximum health, you need an idle stomach. That means your stomach need to be chilling all day, as much as possible, every other day. Your stomach shouldn't be worrying about food or anything of that nature. So, um, I would just say, stay productive, be as busy as possible, and also boost up on your prayers. The prayer, like the amino acid is a prerequisite to the different things we need in the body. Prayer is a prerequisite to have a successful fast. So don't be trying to go out there and fast and you ain't even made no prayers yet. How you going how you going how you going to be fasting and you can't even pray to help you be successful with it. So
Yeah. My
it
wife
don't
says
work like that.
fasting without prayer is starving.
Right, exactly. You're starving. You're intentionally going without food for what? So that's a good point she made, and it all goes back to being steadfast in your prayers, being steadfast and being productive. You know, those two combinations help us fast the best.
And so my personal experience to answer the question would be that I started 1 meal every other day 3 weeks before Ramadan 2015. And like everything else in life, you get better as time goes on. And so specifically to the question, it was about the detoxification process. Um, and I always talk about that the same way I talked about when I first started fasting. When I first started fasting, I used to get real bad sinus headaches. There were certain parts of my body that would break out because I was releasing toxins.
That's right.
And it kind of changed. It continued to change. Sometimes you have, bad headaches. Sometimes they're not too bad. Sometimes you have diarrhea. So you can have a lot of things that happen as you continue going in the right direction. And the thing that we have to understand is that we shouldn't look at those processes as negative. When you have a sinus headache, what is happening? The sinuses are swelling. Why? They're ridding you of toxins. You blow your nose, you spit up something. The sinuses help produce that, getting rid of something. And that's what that mucus is. It's tied to the things that we're trying to rid the body of. If you have diarrhea, and sometimes I typically have diarrhea when I come off of a fast. So if I'm doing a 5-day fast or 3-day fast or a 10-day fast, the GI system shuts down when you fast. And so if a person is eating one meal every other day, like I am, today is my non-eat day. I eat on odd days and I fast on even days. And so sometimes on the day that I eat, I will have some diarrhea. Do we think diarrhea is a bad thing, or do we think it is a cleansing process? And if we look at it, what it really is, it's a cleansing process. There was something that your body should not have absorbed, or may have made you sick, could have killed you. And so you release it into the toilet as diarrhea. Not necessarily a bad thing. And, sometimes when we fast, and I know personally, sometimes I'll get pimples some places on my body. Sometimes I'll get some stuff going on in my skin on long-term fast when I go multiple days. And so these are the type of things that we have to expect. But each of us are different. Some of us will have certain things happen, some won't. The toxin level in your body is high when you're eating bad foods, when you're eating multiple times a day. When you start decreasing your meals, when you start eating one meal every other day. And I just saw somebody, I think it was Dawood Muhammad. He said he's eating one meal every 3 days. Man, praise the God we serve, brother, for you dedicating to that. That is my goal. But honestly, I said that I want to take 2021 and master one meal every other day. That is not in How to Eat to Live. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not once did he mention you have to master one meal a day before you go to one meal every other day. He didn't say master one meal every other day before you go to one meal every 3 days. He said when you get used to eating one meal a day, try one meal every other day. When you get used to eating one meal a day, start working on eating one meal every other day. Okay? So he never said the word master. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I don't want anybody out here to think that this is something that you can't achieve. You can. But it's like everything else in your life. You have to work at eating one meal a day in a world that's promoting eating all day, every day. Commercial on television, driving down the street, billboard, eat something. You're on your phone trying to do some work. Burger King,
Right.
Burger Kill. So all of these things in this society is about overindulgence, supersize, big drink. That's a very difficult reality to fight, but just keep working on it. Keep working at it every day, and you'll find yourself in a better place, better health, cleaner eyes, wider eyes, skin more clear, energy up. Those are the things that happen as you continue to work on How to Eat to Live. So I pray we answered that question. And it looks like we're getting close to the time, bro. So I think we have one more good question, and we're going to just touch on a few things from the comments, and then we'll close out, okay? And I think this is a very good one because I'm sure we talked about the milk, so we don't have to go back to the milk. But somebody mentioned, please talk about the benefits of milk, wheat, and navy. So we talked about milk. We talked about the navy bean. We talked about what is in the milk. But let's talk about wheat, my brother. And a lot of people are talking about wheat insensitivity or wheat sensitivity, and talking about gluten insensitivity, gluten intolerance, those type of things. And also let's expound a little bit on onion and the garlic. because somebody mentioned that. He said that we can eat as much of that as we can. So let's close out with that question. Again, thank you, brothers and sisters, for your questions. If anybody thinks you've heard anything good tonight, please share the show before we get off. But let's end with that question as far as the questions are concerned, deal with a few comments. And brothers and sisters, we're going to start ending an hour and a half, okay? Because going longer takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of time, but that's it. We're going to get up out of here as close to on time as we can. But take that, brother Tariq, and then we'll get to the questions or comments.
Absolutely. Right. So just well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you. I did not realize it's been an hour and 20 minutes already.
Man, we're by fast,
time,
isn't it?
Right. Time flies when you're building, Right. So it's I'm gonna give you a foundation. We're taught, and I believe this is mentioned in the Quran as well, that the milk, the honey and the wheat, the beans, these are of the original foods that was given to the black man and woman to sustain us, so when you're going to often find yourself, you're also going to find your open enemy trying to tamper with these original foods. Right. Because he knows what these foods mean to us and what they mean to our survival. He's not going to mess around with, he's not going to be bothered with the stuff that's not important. He's going to be worried about the things that you need to survive. So when you look at the wheat, and this is something similar to what we said with the milk, the problem is not with the wheat.
That's right.
The problem is with the genetic engineering of the wheat, the way the wheat is processed, and the different other types of chemicals that are made when they genetically engineer the wheat. So when they genetically modify wheat, they're not just genetically modifying the genome or the genes or the information in that wheat. When they do that, and when you tamper with the genes, you're also creating other types of things in that wheat. Remember, genes are serve as the information of any living organism. It's the blueprint. They're the instructions. Sure. So when you tamper with the instructions, if I said to Brother Keely, look, these are the instructions for how to set up a StreamYard account, or to set up or to make this flyer, what have you, and he turns around and does something contrary to those instructions, he's going to get a different result.
That's right.
Because he deviated from those instructions.
Right.
That's what they're doing with the genes in these foods. When they mess with the genes, they're producing different types of products. It's a different type of gluten. It's a different type of lactose. It's a different type of glutathione. It's a different type of protein. It's a different type of carbohydrate. You're no longer dealing with the original version. Right. You're dealing with something that they created. So again, don't let these doctors, and no offense to my brother, because he's a doctor on a whole nother level.
No offense to you, my brother.
Right. Don't let these doctors that are in cahoots with our open enemy tell you that you're allergic to a food. You're allergic to the tampering of the food. Right. You're not allergic to penicillin. You're allergic to how they produce penicillin. I can make penicillin and give it to you and you'll be fine.
Right. But
if you took it from your open enemy and you turn around and get a different type of penicillin, they produce it and they turn around and compound it. Compounding is the process by which they make the pharmaceutical pills. And
so
they turn around
and so that's a good segue, bro. On that segue, talk about the endospore and the fatty content of that and the gluten and why so many people are considering themselves now, after so many millions of years that original people have been eating wheat, why now are they gluten insensitive or having celiac disease or these other problems from so-called gluten, the problem with gluten or the problem with wheat?
Right. So basically, pretty much just expounding upon what I had already said, when they genetically modify a plant, and this is something I studied while I was at Virginia State University. When they genetically modify a plant, they don't that's one of the things they do. But another thing they do is they reintroduce it back into the field. So when they reintroduce it back into the field, now you're getting a process or a population of plants that have negative effects on the human body. So it's a whole group of things that they do: the genetic engineering, reintroducing it back into the field. Then they take the substances from that wheat and introduce it into your diet through producing these other types of foods that we're eating. outside of how to eat to live, you know. So a combination of those things creates environments where your doctor will tell you, look, you're allergic to gluten, or you can't handle gluten. It's not that you can't handle it, you just cannot handle the type of gluten that they produced from that genetic engineering.
Right.
You know, so no matter what part of the wheat, or no matter what you eating, you know, if you're getting it from a source where they are known to produce a genetically modified version of this plant or of this seed, then you're gonna have the problems that they tell you you have. If you get wheat, and if you can do the experiment yourself, if you get the wheat from the nation's farm and then you get the wheat from our enemies' farms, look at the difference in how they affect you. You definitely not gonna tell me it's the same, because it wasn't produced the same.
Right.
You know, and then when you consume these genetically modified foods, you start to build the intolerance to these foods. You know, you're not, you know, and then oftentimes too, our bodies detect when something is genetically modified. Right. Your cells are going to be like, look, okay, hold up, this is something different. This isn't gluten. This is the gluten I know. This is the gluten I was made to digest.
That's right.
This isn't that. So your body's like, okay, hold up, get that out of here.
So one little added thing, bro. Would you say that in addition to what you just explained, is it that in that endospore of that wheat, that because that endospore has a higher fatty content than the rest of the actual whole wheat germ, I would say, and that's not accurate, the wheat grain.
Right.
Is that more attracting? Does that absorb more of the chemical fertilizers, the pesticides, herbicides into that section? Is that also another reason that wheat could potentially cause a problem in a person? And it's not really the wheat, it is the things that have been absorbed from the soil that was put in there?
Absolutely.
Is that an accurate statement?
Right. The endospore is pretty much that's the part of the grain that interacts with the environment the most. So when you're dealing with, when you have the endospore and it's now fighting, you know, the pesticides, it's fighting the different the other types of chemicals that they use to produce this, you know, that endospore is a target. You know, it's almost the first line of defense. It's like the immune system for that grain. When we think of our immune systems, you know, one of the reasons why it's one of the most targeted systems by our open enemy is because it's that first line of defense. You take away the first line of defense, it leaves everything else vulnerable to an attack.
That's right.
You know, it's the same thing with the endospore. It's absorbing all of these different things and becoming a whole nother type of plant. And then it eventually gets to your dinner table, and then your doctor's telling you can't eat it. Yeah, you definitely can't eat it because it's not real. It's not the type of wheat that your body is made to digest. I hope that answered your question, beloved.
It did, absolutely. I just got a lot of good commentary and a lot of good questions. Brothers and sisters, again, you know, I think it's been a wonderful evening. We had a very good conversation. There are a lot of questions I see, a lot of comments that I'm not going to ignore, but we do have to get off today. And so we'll be answering your questions next week. I will say this for Brother Cliff and Alethea, that is true about COVID and causing some mental issues, memory problems, things of that nature. We'll get into that next week because we are going to be tying this into the pandemic, of course, the pestilence that we're dealing with. And for everybody that made a comment about lupus, multiple sclerosis, the two shows that I would like for you to take a listen to are Optimal Vegetarianism Without Supplementation, and then the one that I did on milk. And then specifically, I did a program on autoimmune disorders. So please, if you don't mind, take a listen to those before next week. And we will particularly get into the aspects of autoimmune disorders, why they are happening, and what you should do to go in a different and a better direction, right? This show is founded, and the foundation of it is from How to Eat to Live. And so, as Brother Tariq mentioned earlier, a statement that doesn't offend me, because I'm not a physician of this world. That's right. I am a physician of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I will say that again. I am a physician of the
Right.
Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What I learned in school, there is some value to it, but much of it was propaganda. Much of it was to put me into a protocol of following the money. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Louis Farrakhan saved me from that. That is just the truth. And so what you hear come out of my mouth is not what you're going to hear come out of a lot of physicians' mouths. But a lot of physicians don't have my reality. They don't have my history. And nor do they have my, what is it?
Swag.
They damn sure don't have that. I'm talking about my mission. My mission and my journey is being directed by God. And I'm not saying theirs isn't, but mine is what it is because God directed mine towards how to eat to live, and no question in my mind. So I would like to thank you all. Thank you, Brother Tariq, for spending some time. I know you're busy, bro. We all are. But we
Thank you, beloved.
have made a decision and a sacrifice to make sure that we're able to give you the type of information, the news that you can use to improve your life. Just make sure you get book 1 and 2 and start reading it and start trying to apply it. This is secondary to what's in that book, right? And I think we have to also come to a conclusion that what these typical doctors are giving you, what we typically do in our families, what we're finding on the internet and in social media and just on these television shows that are telling us what to do with our health, it is not working. And so please come and try something that is going to give you benefits. It's going to give you dividends. The amount of work that you put into, the dedication, the sacrifice that you put into how to eat to live is going to give you some benefits. So those of you who are asking questions about specific medical problems, try this first. And if you need help, you can always reach out to me. We can always put something together to help you, because that's what I've been doing for the last 17 to 18 years, is using this book as the foundation for how to help people. And so I pray that you enjoyed your show, enjoyed this show. It is your show. Next week, we're coming back to continue to answer the questions. I'm looking at how many we got through, and it looks like we are going to be doing this for at least another 2 shows, Brother Tariq. So nice. Dr. Mariam will be with us next week. She had something that she had to attend to today, but she is planning on being here next week. And so that's what we plan on doing, coming back, having this show again next week to answer more questions. We're going to continue to answer the questions until we finish. And so those of you who did not get your questions answered today, like the brother that had the question about the water, we will either get to that next week or the week after, but we will answer your questions. So I appreciate you all having patience with us. I thank you, brother, for being so gracious and saying that you appreciated us answering your question at another time. I thank all of you that come and continue to support. Thank you for your patience for us getting to this day where we were going to answer your questions. We will continue again to get to all the questions to make sure that you all have a good armament of understanding of how to eat to live based on our limited understanding of it. But what you are getting from here, I believe, is going to help you make it through this pandemic, through this pestilence that we are living through. And we're going to be better when we come out of this. So thank you again for coming to the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. I pray that you understand that to have good health in this day that we're living in, you have to work hard. And so I pray that you continue to work hard until the next time that we see you, which will be next Tuesday for another episode of the Ultimate Wellness Group Transformation Tuesday. And with that said, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.